All right, so this is going to be objective 11. We're going to do this objective in two parts, okay? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to find terminal points using our reference angle on a unit circle, okay? The second part that we're going to do, and it'll be on the second video, is we're going to find values of trigonometric functions using the unit circle. So we're actually going to find the sine, the cosine, the tangent, the cosecant, secant, and cotangent, okay? Those are your 6 trig functions. Okay, that's going to be part 2. Any questions so far? Let's do a test run, see if this can write. When I say terminal point, I mean we're going to rotate that amount of radians or that amount of degrees. You follow me on this? And where you terminate is where, after you rotate, where you stop or end. Does that make sense? Okay. So, like, for example, let me just go back to this unit circle. Like, if I said, what's the terminal point for pi over 6? We're going to start at 0, and we're going to rotate up pi over 6, correct? Terminal means to terminate something means to stop or to end. So, like, we're going to go around and around the unit circle. And where it stops, it's, for now, it's only going to be points that it's going to actually stop at a exact point on the unit circle, that you're one of these points. That's why you're going to use your unit circle, okay? So, like, if I asked for what's the terminal point for pi over 6? So, when we rotate up pi over 6, where do I stop? At square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. Do you understand? When I say, you know, where do you terminate at, you're going to rotate around the unit circle ever so much, and wherever you stop, that's the coordinate point. That's your terminal point. Okay? Let me explain this. Please write, please write, please write. No, it's not going to write. Okay, let me just say this. If you rotate from 0 and go around counterclockwise, you're moving in a positive direction, okay? If I asked you to rotate negative pi over 6 degrees, how much is pi over 6? How many degrees? 30 degrees, correct? It's pi over 6. But if we go a negative 30 degrees, I'm going to be going backwards. And so where would I land at? I'd land at 330. Does that make sense? So if you go negative, you're going to go clockwise. If you go in a positive direction, you're going to be going counterclockwise. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. So let's look at the first one. So we want to go negative pi over 4 degrees around the unit circle. And I want to know where we're going to stop at. So, if I go back to my unit circle, pi over 4 is how many degrees? It's 45 degrees. But it said it wanted us to go in a negative direction, correct? So if I go negative 45 degrees, where would I end up at? I'd end up at 315. So my question is, what's the terminal point for 315? Square root of 2 over 2 and negative square root of 2 over 2. That would be your answer for the first one. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so if we go to example number 2, 3 pi over 4. Now, is this going in a positive direction or a negative direction? Positive. So let's start at 0 and go positive to 3 pi over 4. So where would that put you at? Where's 3 pi over 4? At 135. So my question is, what's the terminal point for 3 pi over 4? Negative square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. Did I lose anybody? Everybody okay? Okay. All right, how about negative 5 pi over 6? Negative 5 pi over 6. If I were you, I would figure out what a positive 5 pi over 6 is, and then just reverse it and go that many degrees clockwise. So what's positive 5 pi over 6? How many degrees? 150 degrees. But we want to go negative 150 degrees from here. So if I go down, that's negative 90 degrees, correct? Where would 150? At 210. Okay? So my question is, what's the terminal point for 210? Negative square root of 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. Are you following with me on this? Yes? Okay, let me know if I lose you. Okay. So, negative 7 pi over 6. So I want you to talk with your groups real quick. I'll hit pause and see if you can come up with where the terminal point is for negative 7 pi over 6. All right, so what did we come up with? Where's negative 7 pi over 6? At what angle? Okay, it's at 150, correct? Any questions on that? Normally, 7 pi over 6 is at the 210. So you just want to go 210 back from 360. What could you do? You could take 360 and subtract 210, right? And that would leave you at 150. So the terminal point is negative square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. Any questions on that? Okay. Good. All right. How about 5 pi over 3? Anybody, where would you be? Where's the terminal point for 5 pi over 3? 1/2 and negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay. Any questions on that? How about negative 7 pi over 4? Negative 7 pi over 4. That's just 45, so it would be square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. Any questions on that? Okay. How about negative 3 pi over 2? So that would be 90, so that would be 0, 1. Everybody okay? Okay. How about 5 pi over 4? So what is it? Negative square root of 2 over 2 and negative square root of 2 over 2. You just go to the 5 pi over 4, and that's the point you're at. Okay, how about negative pi over 6? Say that again. It'd be at 330 or 11 pi over 6. So the terminal point is square root of 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. Okay, we're almost finished with this part. Here's where it gets a little different. Okay, so talk to your neighbor about negative 17 pi over 6. What does that mean? Right, you're going to have to go all the way around and then some more. Okay, so talk to your neighbor, see if you can figure it out, and we'll get back together. We know. So we know with this that we're going to have to rotate more than once around. Now, when I taught the unit circle, guys, I gave you a helpful hint on how to count it, right? So, and I would count by the denominator. What's the denominator in this one? 6. So, if I do 6 pi's over 6, that's 180, right? So, this would be 6 pi's over 6 would be a half circle, right? Count another 6, be 12 pi's over 6. That would be one full circle. And we got to go all the way to 17 pi's. Now, I can't go again because that would be 18 pi over 6. That's too much. Okay? So, how many pi's over 6 would I have to go? How many's left? 5. Does that make sense? 6 pi over 6 is pi. 12 pi over 6 reduces to 2 pi. That's one full circle. And then from 12, you have 5 more to get to 17 pi over 6. So you go to the 150. Okay? But there's an issue. We want to go where? Negative. So just reverse that. This would be negative 6 pi over 6. Negative 12 pi over 6. You got to go another 5 pi's over 6. So another 150. And you would land over here at 210. Okay? And so the terminal point would be negative square root of 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. You have to be able to count fractions. Like, now is the time that you cannot say, I don't get fractions. You have to be able to count by fractions. So, we're going to do 2 more. I'm going to pop them both up. Oops. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. I want you to look at number 11. 11 pi over 3. And number 12, negative 15 pi over 4. I want you to talk to your partners. And then we'll come back together and see what you get. So, if we go 11 pi's over 3, let's go back to our unit circle. So, again, I cannot stress this to you enough. Count by the denominator. Repeat after me. Count by the denominator. Count by the denominator. If the denominator is 3, you count by 3's. If the denominator is 4, you count by 4's. If the denominator is 5, you count by 5's. You follow me on this? If the denominator is 6, you count by 6. Because this is going to come back to us time and time again, and you will not begin to get it unless you count by the denominator and you count fractions. Okay? So, we want to go 11 pi over 3. So we're going to count by what? 3's. So, and I like to count, half circles are easy to count. Would you agree with that? So, 1/2 circle would be 3 pi over 3. Another half circle would be 6 pi over 3. Correct? Another half circle, add another 3, would be 9 pi over 3. That would give you all the way to here. And we want to go to 11. If I go another, that would be 12. That would be too much. Now, someone said, does anybody go all the way to 12 and then just back it up one? You could do that. And so they back it up and you end at 5 pi over 3 at 300. And so your terminal point is 1/2 and negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay? So you could do that. You could go all the way to 12 and then just back it up one to get to 11. Okay? Or you could go to 9 and then go, here's another pi over 3 and there's another pi over 3. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? So, what's this last one? Negative 15 pi over 4? All right, so we're going to count by 4s, correct? Okay, and we're going to go backwards, correct? All right, so if we do 1/2 circle, that's 4 pi over 4. Negative 4 pi over 4, to be exact. If we do a full circle, that's 8 pi over 4. Okay, so restart. So, going clockwise, we're going backwards. So this would be negative 4 pi over 4. This would be 8 pi over 4. This would be how much? 12 pi over 4. And then we want to get to 15. If I go again, I could get to what? 16, and then I could just go back one. So where am I going to end at? Square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. Okay? Or once you got to 12, you could just count. You need 3 more 45s, right? So you could count, there's 1 45, 90 would be 2 45s, the 45 would be 3 45s. That would be your 15. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, so I'm going to